but my thoughts were directed from it by the murder of Sir Danvers Carew, father of the beautiful girl to whom Harry Jekyll was engaged to be married. It was with feelings almost of joy that I heard of the identification of the murderer with the man Hyde, and then I was filled with dismay to find that the weapon used was a heavy stick which I myself had presented to Harry Jekyll. We searched the rooms of Hyde in vain. He had disappeared utterly, and left no clue. On the afternoon after the search, I called on Dr. Jekyll. I was conducted downstairs, and across the court to the building containing the doctor's laboratory. I had never been there before, and I looked about me with much curiosity. The room I entered was large and empty, dusty and deserted, but at the farther end was a pair of stairs, at the head of which was a baize-covered door. Through this I reached Jekyll's cabinet. By the fire sat Jekyll himself, looking very pale and nervous. He did not rise, and I noticed that the voice in which he greeted me sounded unlike his own, but still strangely familiar. The interview that followed is best given by Mr. Stevenson. "And now," said Mr. Utterson, as soon as Poole had left them, "have you heard the news?" The doctor shuddered. "They were crying it in the square," he said. "I heard them." "One word," said the lawyer. "Carew was my client, but so are you, and I want to know what I am doing. You have not been mad enough to hide this fellow?" "Utterson, I swear to God," cried the doctor, "I swear I will never set eyes on him again. I bind my honor to you that I am done with him in this world. It is all at an end. And indeed he needs no help. You don't know him as I do. He is safe, quite safe. Mark my words, he will never more be heard of." The lawyer listened gloomily. He did not like his friend's feverish manner. "You seem pretty sure of him," he said, "and for your sake I hope you may be right." "I am quite sure," replied Jekyll. "I have grounds for certainty that I cannot share with anyone, but I want your advice. I have received a letter, and I am at loss whether I should show it to the police. I should like to leave it in your hands, Utterson. You would judge wisely, I am sure." "You fear, I suppose, it might lead to his detection?" asked the lawyer. "No," said the other. "I cannot say I care what becomes of Hyde. I am quite done with him. I was thinking of my own character, which this hateful business has rather impugned." "Let me see the letter," said Utterson. The letter was written in an odd, upright hand, and signed Edward Hyde, and it signified briefly that the writer's benefactor, Dr. Jekyll, need labor under no alarm for his safety, as he had means of escape on which he had placed a sure dependence. "That letter is a forgery," said I to myself at the time. Time ran on. As you know, thousands were offered for reward. But Mr. Hyde had disappeared out of the ken of the police as though he had never existed. Much of his past was unearthed, and all of it disreputable. Tales came out of the man's cruelty, at once so callous and violent, of his vile life, and of the hatred which seemed to have surrounded his career. But of his present whereabouts, not a whisper. From the time he had left the house in Soho, on the morning of the murder, he was simply blotted out. Then came trouble from a new quarter. The suspicions which were aroused in me before Carew's murder were being daily strengthened and almost verified. They haunted me day and night, until at last I could stand it no longer, and I determined to confide in Lanyon. But to my astonishment and alarm, he refused to hear anything concerning our old and warmest mutual friend Harry Jekyll. He went further and declined to continue his friendship. He would give no reason for his conduct, but declared over and over again that he had done with poor Harry Jekyll forever. Then, in the midst of my perplexity at this new turn of affairs, Lanyon took to his bed, and in less than a fortnight he was dead. The night after the funeral, I opened a letter marked "Private," for the hands of L. G. Utterson alone, and in case of his predecease, to be destroyed unread. So it was, emphatically superscribed. Within there was another enclosure, likewise sealed and marked on the corner as "Not to be opened till the death or disappearance of Dr. Henry Jekyll." I could not trust my eyes. Yes, disappearance. Here again, as in the mad will which I had long ago returned to its author, here again was the idea of a disappearance, and the name Henry Jekyll bracketed. But in the will, that idea had sprung from the sinister suggestions of the man Hyde. It was set there for a purpose all too plain and horrible. Written by the hand of Lanyon? What should it mean? There is not much more to tell, as regards what is already known. You all know the tale of that awful last night when, after Henry Jekyll had disappeared for over a week, the servants warned us of foul play, and we forced our way into his cabinet only to find the miserable Hyde, who had so long escaped us, there in the throes of his awful death, but not a vestige of poor Harry Jekyll. Then, in the midst of our fears and perplexity, I opened Lanyon's letter, containing the remarkable account of how on that stormy midnight, a few days after the murder, Hyde had entered his, Lanyon's, office, and by means of a drug had changed himself into Henry Jekyll, there before the eyes of Dr. Lanyon. Then came the other, still more remarkable enclosure, the letter from Henry Jekyll to Dr. Lanyon, telling of his wonderful discovery whereby he could change his looks, his heart, his mind, his whole individuality, from the general Henry Jekyll to the fiend Hyde, and thence back again to Jekyll. His confession of the cruelties and the murder of Sir Danvers Carew, while in the form of the fiend Hyde, and his despairing repentance when restored to himself. The story of his change to Hyde without the aid of the drug while he slept, and the using of the last of that drug to restore himself to Jekyll. His fears that, at any moment, he would become the hunted murderer Hyde, without the means to restore himself, and his last touching farewell, coupled with the determination to destroy himself. All of these have been told too well by Mr. Stevenson, and I will hasten on to the startling disclosures which so change the entire aspect of the mystery, and lift the shadow from the memory of poor Henry Jekyll. Chapter 2. To say that these deeply remarkable letters, ending and apparently clearing up this remarkable case, did not deeply impress me, would be untrue. On the contrary, they completely upset me. I was overcome by an overwhelming realizing sense of the horror of it all. For a while, my little world seemed completely upside down. The things with which I had been familiar all my life seemed strange and changed, and the most commonplace incidents became clothed with an element amounting almost to uncanniness. I was haunted with a vague intangible fear